You need to leave, Dad. I need space for my life, my daughter demanded, looking at our family home as if it already belonged to her. So, while she was on vacation, I sold it and bought a villa in the Caribbean for $3 million. When she came back, before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you were listening in the comments. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers, hitting the linoleum with a sharp crack. Dark liquid spread across the kitchen floor like spilled blood, but I couldn't move to clean it. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and real. You want what? My voice came out hoarse, barely recognizable. Ethel stood in the doorway, her supervisor badge from Walmart still pinned to her polyester shirt. She'd always been my little girl, even at 38. Tonight, something cold lived behind her eyes. The house, Dad. Melvin and I need it. She stepped over the spreading coffee without looking down. You can move into one of those senior places. They have activities, bingo nights. The kitchen Martha had painted yellow 20 years ago suddenly felt foreign. Family photos on the refrigerator. Ethel's graduation, her mother's last Christmas, seemed to mock me from across the room. This is my home. The words felt thick in my mouth. I bought it with 30 years of 60-hour weeks at Morrison's garage. Your mother picked out every... Times have changed, Dad. Ethel crossed her arms, blocking my view of the hallway. I'm a grown woman with real responsibilities. Melvin's truck payments aren't going to handle themselves. Martha's voice echoed in my memory. Stand your ground, Herbert. Dignity isn't negotiable. She'd said that when the insurance company tried to lowball us after the neighbor's tree fell on our shed. I'd fought them for 18 months and won. Your mother would be ashamed, I whispered. Ethel's laugh cut through the kitchen's warmth. Mom's been gone 4 years. The world moved on. She examined her fingernails, chipped purple polish catching the overhead light. Besides, what do you need all this space for? You're just one old man rattling around in here. One old man. The phrase hit like a physical blow. I gripped the counter edge, my knuckles whitening against the formica Martha had chosen because it matched her good china. I worked double shifts to put you through community college. My throat tightened. Sold my Mustang to pay for your wedding dress when you married that first husband. Ancient history. Ethel's voice carried that same dismissive tone she'd used as a teenager. Look, I'm not asking for charity here. Melvin's got steady work. We'll handle the utilities, maybe even throw you some rent money for a studio apartment somewhere. The audacity stole my breath. This child I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged and whose bad dreams I'd chased away, stood in my kitchen negotiating my eviction. We'll see about that, I said quietly. Ethel's eyebrows lifted slightly, but she shrugged. Think it over, Dad. But don't take too long. Melvin's lease ends next month. She turned toward the hallway, then paused. Oh, and you might want to clean up that mess. Coffee stains. Her footsteps faded up the stairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by 30 years of memories and the spreading puddle at my feet. The silence pressed against my ears like water. Outside, March wind rattled the windows Martha had insisted on replacing just before her diagnosis. I'd thought they were too expensive then. Now they were the last thing she'd chosen for our home. Sleep hadn't come easy Thursday night. Every creak of the house settling sounded like Ethel packing boxes. Every car passing outside could have been a moving truck. I'd spent Friday at Morrison's rebuilding a transmission, but my hands moved on autopilot while my mind churned over impossible conversations. Now, Friday evening, I sat in my recliner with the Tribune folded on my lap, unread. The living room felt different somehow, like furniture arranged in a museum I was visiting instead of the home I'd built with Martha. Every shadow seemed to whisper about changes coming, whether I wanted them or not. The front door slammed. Ethel's voice carried through the hallway, bright and excited. Dad, I want you to meet someone. My chest tightened. Through 40 years of marriage and 4 years of widowerhood, I'd learned to trust my gut when it clenched like this. Nothing good was walking through my front door. Ethel appeared first, her work uniform replaced by tight jeans and a sweater that showed too much. Behind her hulked a man I'd never seen, 6'2", maybe 220, with tattoos crawling up his neck and disappearing into a flannel shirt that had seen better decades. Dad, this is Melvin. She beamed like she was introducing royalty. My fiancé. Melvin stepped forward, hand extended, gold tooth catching the lamplight. Pleasure, Herbert. Heard a lot about you. His grip was firm enough to send a message. Likewise, I lied, standing slowly. My joints protested after 10 hours hunched over engines. Without invitation, Melvin dropped onto my couch, boots propped on Martha's coffee table. Nice place you got here. Solid bones, good foundation. His eyes swept the room like an appraiser. Could use some updating, though. Maybe knock out that wall between here and the kitchen. Open things up. The wall stays. The words came out sharper than I'd intended. Ethel laughed nervously. Dad's set in his ways, but don't worry. She sat beside Melvin, her hand on his thigh. He'll come around. Course he will. Melvin's smile didn't reach his eyes. We're practically family now. Speaking of which, he gestured broadly at the living room. Hope you don't mind me moving in tonight. Landlord's being a real pain about the deposit situation. The air left my lungs. Moving in? Just temporarily, Ethel said quickly, while we figure out the housing situation. Housing situation, as if my home was some puzzle they needed to solve. Actually, Melvin continued, settling deeper into my couch, might work out perfect. I can help with bills, maybe fix up some of the rough spots around here. That loose step on the porch, the squeaky door upstairs. Man's work, you know? My hands clenched into fists. 40 years I'd maintained this house, replacing every board, fixing every leak, painting every room. Martha and I had turned this place into something beautiful, something lasting. This is still my house, I said quietly. Well, sure it is, Pops. Melvin's tone was the same one you'd use with a confused child. Nobody's saying different. We're just talking about pooling resources, making the most of what we got. Ethel nodded eagerly. It makes perfect sense, Dad. You're rattling around here all by yourself. We're paying rent on Melvin's studio apartment. Why not combine forces? Because it's mine, I wanted to scream. Because Martha and I chose every stick of furniture, every paint color, every doorknob. Because this house holds our dreams and memories and plans for the future she didn't get to see. Instead, I stood. I need some air. Don't stay out too long, Melvin called after me. We've got wedding planning to discuss, lots of decisions to make about the future. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step a retreat from my own living room. Behind me, Ethel giggled at something Melvin said. The sound echoed off walls that had once heard lullabies and bedtime stories, homework help, and heart-to-heart talks. In my bedroom, I sat on the bed Martha and I had shared for 3 decades. Her pillow still held the faint scent of her lavender shampoo. Outside, darkness crept across the neighborhood, where I'd planned to spend my remaining years. They thought they had me figured out. One old man, tired and grieving, easy to push around. Time to show them what's what. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold, matching the knot in my stomach. Downstairs, coffee percolated while I tried to pretend last night was a bad dream. The illusion shattered when Melvin's boots thundered down the stairs, followed by Ethel's lighter steps. Morning, Herbert, Melvin's voice boomed through the kitchen. He'd helped himself to my coffee, my newspaper, and my spot at the breakfast table. Sleep good? I sure did. That guest room's real comfortable. Guest room, Martha's sewing room, where she'd spent countless evenings hemming Ethel's school clothes and stitching Halloween costumes. Now this stranger had claimed it like conquered territory. Morning, Dad. Ethel kissed my cheek, her perfume too sweet in the morning air. Melvin and I were talking. We think we should sit down and discuss logistics. What logistics? I poured coffee with hands steadier than I felt. Melvin spread my Tribune across the table like he owned it. Well, for starters, this place needs some serious work. That water heater's probably older than disco. And don't get me started on the electrical situation. I'd replaced that water heater 3 years ago. The electrical was upgraded when Martha wanted an air conditioner for the bedroom, but I said nothing. The thing is, Ethel continued, Melvin's really handy. He could fix everything that needs fixing, maybe even add some value to the property. Property, not home, not sanctuary, not the place where her mother and I had built a life together. Of course, improvements cost money. Melvin folded the paper with deliberate care. Materials, permits, labor, probably looking at $15,000, $20,000 to do it right. I nearly choked on my coffee. 20,000? Maybe more. Melvin shrugged. Houses this age, you never know what you'll find once you start opening up walls. Could be asbestos, old wiring, foundation issues. Ethel leaned forward eagerly. But here's the thing, Dad. If we all chip in, split the costs, we could really make this place shine. Think of it as an investment in all our futures. Our futures. They'd been here less than 12 hours and already spoke like joint owners. See, Herbert, I've been thinking. Melvin's tone went confidential, man to man. You're getting up there in years. What happens if you take a fall, have a medical emergency? Living alone at your age, it's not smart. I'm 68, not 90. Still, Melvin's gold tooth caught the morning light. Having family around, that's peace of mind. Ethel and me, we could keep an eye on you, make sure you're taking your medications, eating regular meals. Taking my medications. As if I was some doddering fool who couldn't manage a pill organizer. Actually, Ethel said, we were thinking you might want to convert the basement into a little apartment. You'd have your own space, your own entrance, complete privacy. The basement, where Martha had stored Christmas decorations and where I kept my tools. They wanted to stick me underground like something shameful. What about my workshop? Oh, we'd work around that, Melvin said quickly. Maybe build shelves along the walls, really organize everything. More efficient use of space. More efficient. Like my 40 years of accumulated tools and equipment were just clutter to be managed. Plus, Ethel added, if you had basement access, you could come and go without disturbing us upstairs. It would be like having your own apartment, but with family nearby if you need anything. If I need anything, as if I was an invalid requiring supervision. I stood abruptly, chair scraping against linoleum. I need to think about this. Course you do. Melvin nodded sagely. Big decision, take all the time you need. He paused. Just remember, my lease situation won't wait forever. Housing market's tight these days. Good places go fast. The threat hung in the air, polite but unmistakable. Make a decision, or we'll make it for you. I walked toward the back door, needing distance from their voices, their plans, their casual demolition of everything I'd worked to build. Behind me, Ethel whispered something to Melvin, who chuckled low and knowing. The backyard was Martha's domain. Flower beds she'd planned and planted, a bird bath she'd insisted on, a garden where we'd grown tomatoes and beans every summer since 1985. The March air was sharp with coming spring, promising new growth, fresh starts. But not for me. According to my daughter and her boyfriend, my growing season was over. Time to move underground, out of sight, while they took root in the life I'd cultivated. I stood among Martha's dormant flower beds and felt something cold and determined settle in my chest. They thought they had me cornered, desperate, ready to accept any scrap of dignity they might toss my way. They were about to learn differently. The study door clicked shut behind me, the first privacy I'd had since Friday. Saturday evening had crawled by, watching Melvin spread across my house like spilled paint. His boots on my coffee table, his laugh echoing through my hallways, his presence claiming every room he entered. I sank into the leather chair Martha had given me for our 20th anniversary. The desk lamp cast a warm circle of light over scattered papers. Insurance documents, the house deed, utility bills from 40 years of responsible ownership. Everything that proved this place belonged to me, not to some tattooed stranger who'd moved in without invitation. Martha's wedding photo sat in its silver frame beside my reading glasses. She'd been gone 4 years, but her voice still came through clear when I needed it most. Herbert, don't let anyone sit on your neck. She'd said that when the insurance company tried to cheat us after the storm damage. You're not a doormat. Act like it. From the desk drawer, I pulled out her wedding ring, the simple gold band I couldn't bring myself to bury with her. The metal was warm against my palm, familiar as my own heartbeat. Martha never would have stood for what was happening downstairs. She'd have shown Ethel the door, and Melvin right behind her. What would you do, sweetheart? I whispered to the photograph. But I already knew. Martha had steel in her spine that I'd forgotten I possessed. When the neighbor's teenage son kept cutting through our flower garden, she'd planted thorny roses along the path. When the city tried to reassess our property taxes too high, she'd fought them in 3 separate meetings until they backed down. Stand up for yourself, Herbert. You've earned the right. Upstairs, Melvin's voice boomed through the floorboards, telling Ethel some story that ended in his harsh laughter. My house had become a stage for their comfort, while I sat in the dark like an unwanted ghost. 40 years I'd worked to buy this place. Double shifts when Ethel needed school clothes, overtime when the roof needed repairs, weekends under car hoods to pay for Martha's medical bills. every board and brick paid for with my sweat and sacrifice. The house deed lay spread across my desk, Martha's name beside mine in faded blue ink. Legal proof that no amount of entitled demands could change the facts. This was our home, mine now. Not theirs to claim, like some inheritance they were owed. I thought about the fire that had taken our first little house when Ethel was 12. Lost everything except what we could carry out in our arms. Spent 2 years in a cramped apartment, saving every penny to start over. Martha had pressed coupons in her purse and darned socks until they were more thread than original material. We'll build something better, she'd promised. Somewhere nobody can take away from us. Now our daughter wanted to take it anyway. My fingers found the phone book in the bottom drawer, pages yellowed but still readable. Real estate agents, row after row of them. People who understood that houses could be sold, that ownership came with choices. Martha's ring caught the lamplight as I turned the pages. She'd trusted me to protect what we'd built together. Time to prove that trust wasn't misplaced. Melvin's footsteps crossed overhead, heavy and confident in rooms that didn't belong to him. Ethel's voice joined his, planning changes to my kitchen, my living room, my life. They'd mistaken my grief for weakness, my politeness for surrender. First things first. Come Monday morning, I'd make some calls. Monday morning arrived with rain drumming against the study windows. I'd barely slept, but my mind felt sharper than it had in months. Ethel had left early for her manager's shift, keys jingling confidence as she locked my front door behind her. Melvin still snored upstairs in Martha's sewing room. Perfect timing. The yellow pages lay open to real estate agents, my finger tracing down familiar names. Henderson Realty had handled our neighbor's sale last fall. Quick process, fair price, no complications. I dialed before I could reconsider. Henderson Realty, this is Clara Bell speaking. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Herbert Morris, and I need to sell my house. Fast. A pause. Of course, Mr. Morris. How soon were you thinking? This week, if possible. Another pause, longer this time. Well, that's ambitious, but not impossible, depending on condition and pricing flexibility. What's your situation? My situation? Where could I even begin? I need to relocate quickly for personal reasons. The house is well maintained, good neighborhood, no major repairs needed. Excellent. Would this afternoon work for an initial assessment? Say 2 o'clock? My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The first real step toward reclaiming control of my life. That works perfectly. Wonderful. I'll need your address and contact information. I rattled off the details, each word making the plan more real, more irreversible. Clara Bell sounded professional, competent. Exactly what I needed. One question, Mr. Morris. Are you looking at a specific price range, or should we focus on market value? Speed matters more than top dollar. If the house is in excellent condition, what kind of timeline are we talking about? For a motivated seller with realistic pricing, could be on the market tomorrow, sold within a week. I've got several buyers looking in your area. A week? In 7 days, I could transform from victim to free man. The power of choice, something Ethel had tried to steal from me, was still mine to exercise. That sounds perfect, Mrs. Bell. It's Ms. Bell, actually. And Mr. Morris, don't worry. We'll get you moved quickly and fairly. The dial tone hummed in my ear as I set the phone down. Outside, the rain was letting up, weak sunshine struggling through gray clouds. From upstairs came the first sounds of Melvin stirring, bed springs creaking, feet hitting the floor. My watch read 9:30. Ethel wouldn't be home until 6. That gave me 8 hours to prepare for Clara Bell's visit. 8 hours to set my plan in motion while my daughter counted her chickens and her boyfriend claimed my territory. I pulled out a legal pad and began making lists. Documents needed, deed, tax records, utility bills, proof of recent improvements, rooms to highlight, updated kitchen, refinished hardwood floors, new water heater, questions to expect, neighborhood comparables, school districts, local amenities. Upstairs, Melvin's shower started running. Soon he'd wander down to my kitchen, eat my food, sprawl across my furniture like he belonged here. But not for much longer. Martha's photo smiled at me from the desk. She'd have been proud of this moment, her cautious, accommodating husband finally taking decisive action. No more bending over backward for ungrateful children. No more sacrificing my peace for other people's comfort. The notepad filled with careful preparations. By afternoon, I'd be ready to present my house as the valuable property it was. Not the charity case Ethel treated it as, but a real estate asset worth fighting for. Melvin's footsteps creaked down the stairs. I folded the notepad into my shirt pocket and straightened Martha's photo on the desk. Let him have his breakfast. Let him plan his improvements. By tonight, everything would change. Tuesday afternoon crept toward 2 o'clock with painful slowness. I'd spent Monday evening cleaning details that were already spotless, organizing documents that were already organized, rehearsing conversations that might never happen. The house looked perfect. 40 years of careful maintenance finally being put to professional use. Ethel had left for another early shift, grumbling about inventory counts and corporate inspections. Melvin remained upstairs, sleeping off whatever had kept him up, late watching my television and eating my food. The timing couldn't have been better. At exactly 2 o'clock, a silver sedan pulled into my driveway. Through the front window, I watched a woman in a navy suit gather a briefcase, tablet, and camera. Clara Bell moved with the confident stride of someone who knew her business. Mr. Morris? Her handshake was firm, professional. Clara Bell, Henderson Realty, thank you for choosing us. Appreciate you coming so quickly. She surveyed the front entryway with appraising eyes, already taking mental notes. Beautiful woodwork, original hardwood floors? Refinished them myself 3 years ago. Pride crept into my voice despite everything. Clara photographed the living room from multiple angles, commenting on the natural light and well-maintained condition. Her enthusiasm was genuine. This wasn't polite business courtesy, but real appreciation for quality craftsmanship. The kitchen updates are impressive, she said, running her hand along Martha's carefully chosen countertops. Appliances? Water heaters new, dishwashers 2 years old, refrigerators still under warranty. More photographs, more notes. Clara moved through my house like she understood its value, documenting details that Ethel had dismissed as old-fashioned and Melvin had earmarked for demolition. Mind if we check upstairs? I know you mentioned time constraints, but buyers want to see everything. We climbed the stairs quietly. Melvin's snores drifted through the closed door of Martha's sewing room. Clara raised an eyebrow but said nothing, professional discretion overriding curiosity. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, I whispered. Master bedroom gets morning sun, good cross ventilation throughout. She photographed quickly, efficiently, respecting my need for quiet. In the master bedroom, she paused at Martha's vanity table, still arranged with perfume bottles and jewelry boxes I couldn't bear to pack away. Recent loss? Her voice carried genuine sympathy. 4 years ago, my wife. I'm sorry. But, Mr. Morris, this house has been beautifully maintained. Your neighborhood's showing strong appreciation. Comparable sales are running $320,000 to $340,000 for similar properties. My breath caught. More money than Martha and I had ever imagined when we'd bought this place for $45,000 in 1985. However, Clara continued, given your timeline needs, we'd probably price it $280,000 for quick sale. Still excellent value, but attractive to serious buyers who can close fast. Fine. Speed is what matters most. Clara's tablet clicked as she made final notes. The house is in excellent condition, Mr. Morris. Better than most properties I evaluate. We should find a buyer within a week. A week. 7 days to complete the biggest transaction of my life. 7 days to prove that Herbert Morris still controlled his own destiny. When can we start? I'll have listing photos processed tonight, paperwork ready tomorrow morning. We could be showing the house by Thursday. Thursday. The day after tomorrow. Ethel would still be planning her kitchen renovations while strangers walked through rooms she thought she owned. That works perfectly. Clara packed her equipment with the satisfied efficiency of a successful evaluation. I'll call tomorrow with final paperwork and showing schedule. Any restrictions on access times? None. Whatever works best for buyers. She paused at the front door, professional smile warming into something more personal. Mr. Morris, I hope you don't mind me saying, but it takes courage to make major changes at any stage of life. You're doing the right thing. The right thing. Martha would have agreed. Clara's sedan disappeared down the street, leaving me alone with signed agreements and committed timelines. Upstairs, Melvin continued sleeping in borrowed space, unaware that his easy arrangement was about to collapse. I stood in my living room, soon to be someone else's living room, and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Freedom. Tuesday evening settled over the house like a blanket. But the peace was deceptive. 3 days had passed since Clara's visit. 3 days of Ethel shooting suspicious glances while Melvin strutted through rooms he assumed were becoming his. Neither suspected that tomorrow morning their comfortable assumptions would crumble with the listing going live. Ethel's keys rattled in the front door, followed by her familiar complaints about corporate politics and difficult customers. I sat in my usual chair, newspaper folded beside me, watching her dump her purse and kick off her shoes. The daughter who once brought me dandelions now moved through my house with the entitlement of someone who believed she owned it. Rough day? I asked mildly. The worst. District managers breathing down everyone's necks about quarterly numbers. She collapsed into the sofa, rubbing her temples. Speaking of numbers, Dad, I need to ask you something. Here it came. I'd been expecting this moment since her first demand for the house. Another financial test. Another assumption that Herbert Morris existed to fund other people's dreams. What's that, sweetheart? Melvin and I want to take a vacation before the wedding. Miami Beach, maybe 5 days at a decent hotel. Her tone was casual, practiced. Nothing too expensive. Maybe $2,000 should cover flights and everything. $2,000, spoken like pocket change, like money I'd printed in my basement instead of earned through 40 years of torn knuckles and aching backs. That sounds nice. I kept my voice level. Have you asked Melvin to pay for it? Ethel's eyebrows lifted slightly. What do you mean? I mean, he's your fiancé. Maybe he should handle vacation expenses. Dad, come on. Melvin's between jobs right now, you know that. Besides, you've always helped when I needed something special. Always. The word hung between us, loaded with decades of accommodation. Dance lessons, prom dresses, car repairs, security deposits, emergency loans that never got repaid. Always bending over backward for this woman who now demanded my home as her next convenience. Times change, Ethel. Now you have a fiancé. Ask him. She stared at me like I'd spoken in foreign language. What's gotten into you lately? You're being so difficult. Maybe I finally learned to respect myself. The words came out steadier than I'd expected, carrying weight that surprised us both. Ethel's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Respect yourself? What's that supposed to mean? I'm your daughter? Exactly, which is why I taught you responsibility instead of entitlement. At least, I tried to. Ethel shot to her feet, hands on her hips in a pose I remembered from her teenage years. You've never refused to help me before. What's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me. Everything's finally right. This is ridiculous. Melvin! She turned toward the stairs, voice rising. Melvin, come down here. I remained seated, hands steady on the armrests. Let her call for reinforcements. Let Melvin storm down here with his gold tooth and his presumptions. They had no idea what was really happening in this house. No clue that their entire world was about to shift. What's this about? Ethel demanded, pacing now. Why are you being so stubborn about everything? Maybe because I'm tired of being taken for granted. Her face flushed with frustration and confusion. This wasn't the Herbert Morris she knew, the accommodating father who bent to every demand. This was someone else entirely, someone who'd remembered his own worth. Melvin, she called again, louder this time. I need you down here. Footsteps thundered overhead, followed by Melvin's voice asking what was wrong. Soon he'd appear in my living room, ready to put the old man in his place, ready to restore the natural order where Herbert Morris said yes to everything. I folded my hands in my lap and waited. Heavy footsteps pounded down the stairs, followed by Melvin's bulky frame filling the living room doorway. He took in the scene quickly, Ethel standing with clenched fists, me sitting calmly in my chair, and his face darkened. What's going on here? His voice carried the aggressive edge I'd heard during their late-night planning sessions. Your fiancé is upset because I won't fund your Miami vacation, I said mildly. Melvin stepped closer, using his height to loom over my chair. Old man, you're too harsh with Ethel. She's your daughter. That's exactly why I taught her responsibility. You showed up too late for that lesson. Look here. Melvin's hands curled into fists. Ethel's been nothing but good to you. Least you can do is help out when she asks. I studied his face, noting the barely controlled anger, the assumption that volume and bulk could intimidate an elderly man into submission. 40 years ago, maybe, not today. Help suggests mutual respect. This feels more like demands. Demands? Melvin's laugh was harsh. Man, you don't know how good you got it. Your daughter visits, brings her fiancé around, includes you in wedding plans. Most old folks would be grateful. Most old folks don't get their houses demanded from them. Ethel shot me a warning look. We hadn't discussed the house incident with Melvin present, but now it was out in the open, hanging between us like a loaded weapon. That's different, Melvin said quickly. That's about family, about making smart decisions. You rattling around in this big place while we're cramped in my studio. Where's the sense in that? The sense is that it's my house. For now. Melvin's smile was cold. But frankly, Herbert, at your age, maybe you really should retire to a nursing home. Let the adults handle adult responsibilities. The words hit their intended target, but instead of feeling wounded, I felt something else entirely. Clarity. This man had just threatened to warehouse me like unwanted furniture while he and Ethel played house with my life's work. Interesting perspective, I said quietly. We'll see who ends up where. Something in my tone made Melvin pause. For just a moment, uncertainty flickered across his features. Then his bravado reasserted itself. What's that supposed to mean? Means times change faster than people expect. Ethel moved to Melvin's side, seeking the alliance she'd always counted on. See what I mean? He's being impossible about everything. Won't help with the vacation, won't discuss practical living arrangements. Herbert. Melvin's voice dropped to what he probably considered a reasonable tone. Look, I get it. Change is hard, but you need to think about reality here. Ethel and me, we're the future. You're not getting any younger. Neither are you. But we got plans, dreams, things we want to accomplish together. He gestured toward Ethel. Don't you want to see your daughter happy? I want to see her standing on her own feet. That's what we're trying to do, but it takes resources, cooperation from family. It takes work, something both of you might try. Melvin's face flushed dark red. Work? You think I don't work? I've been busting my back driving truck for 12 years. Then you should have vacation money saved. It ain't that simple, old man. Economy's tight. Expenses keep rising. Excuses keep multiplying. The silence that followed was electric with tension. Melvin stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish, while Ethel stared at me with growing alarm. They'd never seen this version of Herbert Morris, the man who'd learned to say no and mean it. I don't know what's gotten into you, Ethel said finally, but this isn't like you at all. Maybe you never knew me as well as you thought. Melvin straightened to his full height, trying one more time to use physical presence as intimidation. Herbert, I'm trying to be respectful here, but you're pushing things in a bad direction. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked up at him from my chair, completely unimpressed by his posturing. Or what? The question hung in the air. Melvin's jaw worked, but no threats came. What could he threaten, really? To leave? To take Ethel away? Both prospects sounded like improvements. I rose from my chair slowly, deliberately, forcing Melvin to step back or risk an uncomfortably close confrontation. When I was standing, I looked him directly in the eyes. Good night, Melvin. Ethel. I walked toward the stairs with measured steps. Enjoy your evening planning things you can't afford. Behind me, I heard Ethel's sharp intake of breath and Melvin's muttered curses. But I didn't look back. There would be time enough for reactions tomorrow when the listing went live and the first interested buyers started calling. For now, I had won the evening. Friday afternoon arrived with spring sunshine and Clara Belle's excited phone call. 3 days had passed since my confrontation with Melvin. 3 days of tense silences and suspicious glances, but no one suspected the real storm approaching. Mr. Morris, Clara Belle, I have wonderful news. The listing generated immediate interest, and I have a young couple who want to see the house this afternoon. They're pre-approved and ready to move quickly. Through my study window, I watched Ethel's car disappear down the street, headed to work for her afternoon shift. Melvin had left earlier with his truck, finally landing a temporary driving job that would keep him busy until evening. Perfect timing. That sounds excellent, Clara. What time works best? Would 3 o'clock be convenient? Their names are Tom and Sarah Johnson. Lovely young couple, first-time buyers, but very serious about purchasing. I glanced at my watch. Noon. 3 hours to prepare for what might be the final phase of my plan. 3 o'clock is perfect. By 2:45, the house looked immaculate. Not that it needed much work. 40 years of careful maintenance had kept everything in pristine condition. I'd gathered all the relevant documents, practiced my answers to probable questions, and positioned myself by the front window to watch for Clara's arrival. At exactly 3 o'clock, a silver sedan pulled into my driveway, followed by a compact SUV. Clara emerged from the sedan with her professional smile and tablet, while a young couple climbed out of the SUV, him tall and sandy-haired, her petite with an excited expression. "Mr. Morris, meet Tom and Sarah Johnson." Clara's enthusiasm was genuine. "They're very excited about seeing your property." Tom's handshake was firm and confident. "Mr. Morris, thank you for accommodating our schedule. The listing photos are beautiful, but we wanted to see everything in person." "Of course. Please come in." Sarah's eyes widened as we entered the living room. "Oh, Tom, look at that hardwood. It's gorgeous." "Refinished them myself 3 years ago," I said, pride creeping into my voice despite everything. Clara led the tour with professional efficiency, but the young couple's enthusiasm needed no encouragement. They admired Martha's kitchen choices, complimented the natural light, and asked intelligent questions about utilities and neighborhood amenities. "The maintenance records are impressive," Tom said, flipping through the documentation I'd provided. "You can tell this house has been cared for. It's been our home for 30 years. My wife and I put a lot of love into every room." Sarah's expression softened. "Your wife has wonderful taste. The whole place feels so warm and welcoming." Had, past tense. But I didn't correct her. Room by room, they fell more in love with the property. The master bedroom with its morning light, the functional bathroom with updated fixtures, even Martha's old sewing room impressed them with its possibilities. "Perfect for a nursery someday," Sarah whispered to Tom, who nodded with a smile. By the time we'd completed the full tour, their decision was obvious. "Mr. Morris," Tom said, his voice serious but excited, "we're ready to buy this house right now at your asking price." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The moment when planning became reality, when Herbert Morris stepped from victim to victor. "Excellent. Clara, when can we finalize the paperwork?" Clara's smile could have powered the neighborhood. "If all documents are ready, we can complete the sale tomorrow, Saturday. I know a title company that handles weekend closings for motivated parties." "Perfect." I looked at the young couple, seeing their excitement, their dreams of building a life in the home Martha and I had created. "Welcome to your new house." Tom pumped my hand enthusiastically while Sarah looked ready to cry with joy. They were good people, I could tell. They'd fill this house with the love and laughter it deserved, instead of the entitled demands and casual disrespect it had been receiving. "We can close as early as tomorrow if needed," Tom added. "We've been looking for months, and this is exactly what we hope to find." Clara's tablet clicked as she made notes and arrangements. "Mr. Morris, I'll have all the closing documents ready by tomorrow morning. Will 10 o'clock work for everyone?" 10 o'clock Saturday morning. By noon, I'd be a free man with a significant sum in my account and no forwarding address for ungrateful children or presumptuous boyfriends. 10 o'clock works perfectly. As Clara and the Johnsons prepared to leave, I stood in my doorway watching them discuss paint colors and furniture placement. They saw potential where my own family saw only opportunity for exploitation. Clara lingered after the couple left, her professional excitement barely contained. "Mr. Morris, in 30 years of real estate, I rarely see transactions this smooth. They're paying cash equivalent through their credit union, all inspections waived based on your maintenance records. This is what we call a perfect sale. A perfect sale, the perfect revenge more like it." After Clara left, I walked through my house one more time, seeing it through the Johnsons' eyes. Clean lines, quality materials, decades of care evident in every corner. Martha would have loved them. Tomorrow, it would all be theirs. Tonight, it was still mine to enjoy one last time. Saturday morning arrived with the satisfaction of a man who had just transferred $280,000 into his account while his ungrateful family slept. The house closing had taken less than an hour, professional efficiency replacing decades of emotional chaos. Tom and Sarah Johnson were lovely people who deserved this home more than the daughter who demanded it without earning it. By noon, I was moving through my house with methodical purpose, sorting 40 years of accumulated life into 3 categories: essential, storage, and abandoned. Martha's wedding ring went into my shirt pocket. Her favorite cookbook, the one with flower stains on page 43, went into the box marked Ethel, Storage Unit, Sodom 47. The rental truck waited in my driveway like a chariot of liberation. Box by box, I loaded Ethel's belongings, clothes she'd left in her old room, photo albums from high school, the jewelry box I'd given her for college graduation. Despite everything, I packed each item carefully. Martha had raised me better than to destroy someone's possessions, even when they'd tried to steal my home. Careful with that mirror, I told the furniture dealer, who'd arrived to purchase my dining room set. It's been in the family 30 years. No problem, Mr. Morris. Cash payment as agreed? Perfect. Everything had a price when you needed quick sale. The sofa where Martha and I had watched evening news for 20 years, gone for $200. The kitchen table where Ethel had done homework while I balanced checkbooks, sold for $150. Decades of careful purchases reduced to moving sale mathematics. But I kept nothing heavy, nothing that wouldn't fit in 2 suitcases. By 3 o'clock, the storage unit was organized like a small apartment. Ethel's life, neatly labeled and climate-controlled, waiting for her to claim it. The facility manager had been impressed by my efficiency. Most people just throw everything in randomly, she'd said. You've got everything sorted like a professional. I had time to plan. Back home, former home, I made my final phone call. American Airlines, this is Janet. How can I help you? I need a ticket to Barbados for tomorrow, one way. Certainly, sir. We have a seat on the 2:30 p.m. flight departing Chicago O'Hare. Would that work? Perfect, I'll take it. 1 credit card swipe later, my escape was official. The house felt strange in its emptiness, 40 years of life distilled down to bare walls and echoing rooms. I walked through each space one final time, remembering Martha's laughter in the kitchen, Ethel's childhood birthday parties in the living room, quiet Sunday mornings reading newspapers by the window. Good memories deserved preservation. Bad behavior deserved consequences. I sat at the kitchen table, the last piece of furniture remaining, and wrote a note on Martha's old stationery. Ethel, you wanted space to build your adult life. Now you have it. Your belongings are in storage unit number 47 at Secure Space on Franklin Street. The key and access code are with this note. I've gone somewhere I can enjoy my retirement in peace. Good luck with adult responsibilities. Dad. No anger, no cruelty, just facts and natural consequences. I left the note with the new owners, along with my house keys and garage door opener. Tom and Sarah Johnson had volunteered to handle whatever scene might occur when Ethel and Melvin returned from their weekend away. We'll be gentle but clear, Tom had promised. Your daughter will understand the situation quickly. Sunday morning, I checked out of the airport hotel and walked toward my gate with 2 suitcases and 40 years of freedom. Behind me, Chicago held decades of sacrifice and accommodation. Ahead, the Caribbean promised sunshine and the revolutionary concept of living for myself. For the first time since Martha's funeral, I felt genuinely excited about the future. Sunday evening descended on the house like a curtain falling on the final act. I was somewhere over the Atlantic, but the real drama was just beginning at 1247 Maple Street, where Ethel and Melvin were discovering that home wasn't where they'd left it. Tom Johnson had spent the afternoon arranging furniture in what was now his living room. Sarah had been organizing their kitchen, humming softly while she arranged dishes in cabinets that had once held Martha's china. They were nice people, the kind who deserved a house maintained by love rather than claimed by entitlement. When the front door rattled with someone trying to use a key that no longer worked, Tom glanced at Sarah with knowing concern. They'd been expecting this moment since yesterday. You must be Ethel? Tom opened the door to find a woman in her 30s staring at him with growing alarm. Behind her stood a large man with tattoos, his face darkening with confusion and anger. Who are you? Ethel's voice cracked slightly. What are you doing in my house? I'm Tom Johnson. This is my wife, Sarah. We bought this house yesterday. His tone was gentle but firm. Your father asked us to give you this note and these keys. Bought the house? Melvin pushed forward aggressively. What the hell are you talking about? This is our place. Tom held up a manila folder with calm professionalism. Here are the legal documents. The sale was completed yesterday morning? Ethel grabbed the papers with trembling hands, scanning the incomprehensible legal language. Sale price, $280,000. Buyer, Johnson, Thomas, and Sarah. Seller, Morris, Herbert James. Date, March 22nd, 2025. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "Where is my father?" "He didn't leave a forwarding address," Sarah said sympathetically. "Just asked us to make sure you got his note." Ethel's fingers shook as she unfolded the familiar stationery. Martha's name was still embossed at the top, making the words below even more surreal. "You wanted space to build your adult life. Now you have it. Your belongings are in storage unit number 47 at Secure Space on Franklin Street. The key and access code are with this note. I've gone somewhere I can enjoy my retirement in peace. Good luck with adult responsibilities." She read it aloud, her voice getting smaller with each sentence. "Storage unit?" Melvin snatched the note. "That crazy old man put our stuff in storage?" "Your belongings are safe," Tom assured them. "Everything was packed very carefully. Your father seemed to take great care with your possessions." "My possessions?" Ethel's voice rose to a near shriek. "This is my home. I grew up here. You can't just buy someone's house." "Actually, we can," Sarah said quietly, "when it's legally for sale by the rightful owner." Melvin studied the legal documents like they might change if he stared hard enough. "This is some kind of scam. Old man Morris would never sell this place. He's lived here forever." "The title company verified everything," Tom explained patiently. "Mr. Morris owned the house free and clear. He had every legal right to sell it." Ethel fumbled for her phone, dialing with desperate fingers. "Dad! Dad! Answer your phone!" The call went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. "He's not answering," she said unnecessarily. "Maybe because he doesn't want to talk to you," Melvin muttered, then caught himself. "I mean, maybe his phone's dead or something." But even Melvin was beginning to understand. The legal documents were real. These people had legitimate ownership. Herbert Morris had actually done it, sold the house out from under them, while they spent the weekend planning their future in it. "Look," Tom said carefully, "I know this is a shock, but we're the legal owners now, and we'd like to settle in peacefully." "Settle in?" Ethel stared at him like he'd suggested she jump off a bridge. "You want us to just leave?" "I'm sorry, but this is our home now." The words hit like physical blows. Our home. The house where Ethel had played dress-up in her mother's closet, where she'd brought boyfriends to meet her parents, where she'd assumed she'd raise her own children someday. It belonged to strangers. Melvin's face had gone from angry red to pale understanding. "He actually did it. The old man actually sold the house." "We should call the police," Ethel said desperately. "And tell them what?" Tom asked gently. "That a homeowner sold his own property? They'll just confirm what I'm telling you." Ethel looked around the living room, seeing Sarah's books on shelves that had held her father's magazines, Tom's jacket hanging where Herbert's cardigan used to rest. Even the smell was different, younger, more hopeful. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would he do this?" But deep down, she was beginning to understand perfectly. 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, I slept peacefully for the first time in months. No footsteps overhead claiming my space. No voices planning renovations to my life's work. Just the gentle hum of engines carrying me toward a future I'd chosen for myself. My phone buzzed constantly in airplane mode. 17 missed calls from Ethel, 12 from Melvin, text messages that I didn't bother reading. The desperate attempts to reach me only confirmed that my plan had reached its inevitable conclusion. They'd discovered that Herbert Morris was no longer available for exploitation. When we began our descent toward Barbados, I switched on my phone long enough to see one final text from Ethel. "Dad, please call me. I don't understand what's happening." I turned it off again. Monday morning arrived with Caribbean sunshine, and the kind of warm breeze that made Chicago's March weather seem like a bad memory. Grantley Adams Airport welcomed me with steel drum music and the scent of tropical flowers. After 40 years of grinding winters and ungrateful family, I'd finally reached paradise. "Mr. Morris?" A woman with a professional smile and natural Caribbean warmth approached me at baggage claim. "I'm Maria Santos, Island Properties. Welcome to Barbados." "Thank you, Ms. Santos. I'm excited to see what you found." She led me to a pristine Range Rover, chatting easily about weather and local attractions, while we drove through villages painted in pastels that made Martha's yellow kitchen seem pale by comparison. The island was exactly what I'd researched during those late nights in my study: beautiful, peaceful, and importantly, very far from suburban Chicago. "This villa has been on the market only 2 weeks," Maria explained as we turned down a private drive lined with palm trees. "The previous owner was relocating to London. It's priced for quick sale." The house that appeared through the tropical landscaping made my breath catch. Single-story elegance with wraparound verandas, positioned perfectly to catch ocean breezes and sunset views. The kind of home Martha and I had dreamed about during those long Illinois winters, when retirement seemed impossible and Caribbean vacations were just magazine pictures. "The asking price is $3 million, but the owner might consider $2.8 for cash purchase," Maria said, as we walked through rooms filled with light and possibility. $2.8 million, the exact amount I'd accumulated through 40 years of careful saving, combined with the house sale that had liberated both my money and my spirit. "This is exactly what I need after all those years of sacrifice," I told Maria, watching her eyebrows lift slightly at my immediate interest. We spent 2 hours touring the property. Master suite with ocean views where I could wake to sunrise instead of family demands. Kitchen designed for one person's pleasure rather than multiple people's expectations. Study overlooking gardens where I could read without interruption or criticism. Most importantly, no room designated for ungrateful children or presumptuous boyfriends. "I'll take it," I said, as we finished the tour on the main veranda, watching waves break against pristine sand. "You don't need time to consider? Perhaps consult with family?" "I've been considering this for months, and my family has made it very clear they can handle their own decisions." By afternoon, I'd signed preliminary papers and arranged the international wire transfer. By evening, I was sitting on my own veranda with a rum punch, watching the sun paint the Caribbean sky in colors that made Martha's watercolor paintings seem like rough sketches. My phone had stopped buzzing hours ago. Either the calls had exhausted themselves or, more likely, Ethel and Melvin had finally accepted their new reality. They'd wanted independence and adult responsibility. Now they had both, courtesy of a father who'd finally learned that love didn't require self-sacrifice. The sun disappeared into the ocean, taking with it the last traces of Herbert Morris, the accommodating doormat. Tomorrow, I'd wake up as Herbert Morris, the free man. No one's victim, no one's funding source, no one's displacement project. For the first time in years, I felt genuine peace. Martha would have been proud. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.